as well. So today, we're diving into public speaking, presentation skills, social media strategies to amplify the conservation effort. Whether you are a communication officer, a fundraiser, or a passionate advocate, this workshop is for you. So let's meet our incredible panelists. Mr. Phil Smith, connecting through online with us today, is the CEO and founder of NatureWize Vietnam, with 45 years shaping the sustainability education. Right next to me is Miss Amy Minhan Corey, a singer and a goodwill ambassador inspiring change through storytelling. And Jamie Oliver, pursuing master degree in global ecology at Candid University, blending education and conservation. We're receiving fantastic questions from all the attendees today, and we weave them into our presentation and discussion. So let's start. First, I would love to each of our guest speaker today to share a bit about yourself and your topic. Phil, let's start with you.
Thanks, Mai. Look, I applaud what you're doing here with this initiative. It's wonderful. And I'm very happy to have the opportunity to connect with others around Vietnam who are also interested in helping to build a sustainable world. It's important for Vietnam's future that we all get better, all of us get better at stepping up and speaking up about the well-being of everyone and all species and all ecosystems. Thanks for this opportunity, Mike.
Yeah, okay. Amy, Joe.
Yeah, I agree 100%. My name is Amy Minhan Curry. I was born here in Vietnam and I was adopted to the States. And I've returned about 6 years ago on and off to Vietnam to help brand building and development and human evolution here in Vietnam and just anything impactful to put Vietnam back on the map as Vietnam.
Thank you. And Jamie?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie. As I said, I'm studying conservation and global ecology at Cardiff University. I'm very excited to be taking part in this today. I will be talking a little bit about presentation skills, which is something I always hated early on in my career, but it's something I've had to develop throughout. So hopefully some of the lessons I've learned, I'll be able to pass on and help people who are in the position that I used to be.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. And just so you know, joining with us today are conservationists, students, teachers. We are very grateful to have a very diverse group of people that are attending with us today. So let's dive into our topic. Phil, I will let you to go first. Please share your screen.
I presume you can see that.
Yes, we got it.
Thanks for this opportunity. Let's start here. A pretty powerful image. It tells us what research says about people's attitudes towards public speaking. There's research that says most people would rather die than be a public speaker. They fear being judged. They fear sort of a lack of self-worth. They fear rejection. But public speaking is such a privilege. It's your opportunity, not the people out there that you're speaking to. It's your opportunity to step up and express your views and your ideas and to share your thoughts, your passions, your feelings. It's a chance to impact, like this water drop, to impact far and wide throughout your communities. It's a chance to inspire. And I must say that if your public speech doesn't inspire, then you need to go back to the drawing board, because that's almost rule number one. Your job is to inspire. Being a public speaker also strengthens you as a person, your sense of place, your sense of achievement, your sense of passion and connection. And it also makes you think more clearly about what you say and about what you write. In preparation for today's session, I asked 10 of my former students, what are the top 3 things that are important in public speaking? And they're there in front of you. Everyone gets nervous. Everyone. I'm sure Mai and Amy and Jamie will agree that even in preparation for this online session, we're feeling nervous, and that's okay. There's a cliched expression about getting the butterflies flying in the right direction, in the same direction. Okay, you can do that. I'll give you some of the tips to help you do that. But you have to be clear about your purpose. You have to prepare. You have to have a good structure, and you need good vocal variety and body language. These are the top things that 10 of my students said a couple of weeks ago when I asked them. My session will give you 5 top tips. But first, 2 promises, and promises to yourself. You must be yourself. This isn't about creating everyone as a speaker like me or someone else. This is about helping you be you as a speaker. Never forget that. You don't have to copy. You don't have to be what that other speaker is. Admire other people, watch other speakers, adapt the things that they do, but be yourself. Promise that to yourself. The second promise is practice, 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 practice. Keep practicing. Okay, there's no, Messi didn't become a great soccer player by kicking the ball once. All of our great tennis players didn't hit the ball over the net once and become great. They practiced. It's true with public speaking as well. Practice before you give a talk and look for as many opportunities as you possibly can. So now into those 5 tips. Number 1, be clear about your purpose. If you are not clear about your purpose, the audience won't be clear either. You're not presenting them with a jigsaw. That's unfair. You have to be clear about your purpose. And you have to be clear about what it is you're trying to shift. Do you want people to change their mind about something? Do you want people to feel differently about something? Or do you want them to get out and do something different or continue doing the good stuff that they're already doing? So that first message is be absolutely clear about your purpose. Number 2, if you don't engage people at the beginning, if you don't have them at the beginning, you won't have them in the middle or at the end. Here are 5 ways that you might engage your audience. Number 1, start with 3 facts about your topic. Just 3 simple, clear, sharp facts. Number 2, imagine. Ask people to imagine a situation, good or bad. Number 3, tell a story. Sometimes people feel afraid about talking about themselves. No, your stories matter. Ask 3 questions, of course, relevant to the topic. Or make a bold statement. No one in this room will have a future beyond 2030. Imagine beginning your talk like that, and followed up by a couple of other statements. Climate change is going to flood the bottom half of Vietnam. We won't have anywhere to live. Make bold statements related to your topic. Please practice one of these beginnings. Do not begin with, hi, I'm Phil, and I'm from Australia, and I'm here to talk to you about public speaking. Do not begin with your name. Your name comes later in the introduction. And in that introduction, you must connect yourself to the story. Connect yourself to the topic. That's your heart. If you connect yourself to the topic, you are demonstrating that you are there as a genuine speaker. You are genuinely connected to the issue you're speaking about. Your heart matters, your passion matters. And by connecting yourself to the topic through a story, you'll be connecting with other people in your audience because they will have similar stories. Number 3, why is this important? I said earlier, begin with 3 facts or begin with 3 questions. In the body of your talk, give 3 reasons, evidence, examples, explanation, give 3. Why is 3 important? In my culture, 3 little pigs, 3 billy goats gruff. If a genie rubs a lamp and says you've got wishes, he or she says you've got 3 wishes. In the Vietnamese culture, we've got 3 axe blades, a great story about honesty. We've got 3 shining candles, and even the story about the kitchen god event around the 20th of January is about 3 characters, 1 wife and 2 husbands. An interesting story. If you don't know it, read it. 3 matters. Our brains are pattern-making, pattern-seeking organisms, and 3 is the lowest number that we can start to make patterns with. So tell 3 facts, ask 3 questions, provide, give 3 examples, 3 reasons why people should do things. And by the way, we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's 3. And so 3 is sort of the Goldilocks number. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. Keep 3 in mind. It also means that people won't go on to 4 and 5 and 15. That's just silly. People will turn off. My 5th and last point is, how will you end? I'll tell you how you will end. You must end with power and inspiration and passion. And if you can, link back to your purpose, and you can link back to your purpose, so do that. Keep your purpose in mind all the way through your talk. And how can you link to the opening? How can you link to the opening? End with power, a call to action, an inspirational message, a quote, an image, an invitation to participate in an event that's not going to take forever to do, but it might take a little while. Something people can do. It's got to be achievable. It's got to be achievable. And so, what will you choose? Coffin or microphone? Please choose the microphone. We need to be stepping up, speaking up, demonstrating our passion effectively, efficiently, in engaging ways, so that we inspire others to work with us to help build a sustainable Vietnam. If you want a free public speaking course, and I've offered this to Mai for a while now, please ask. I will do that. I run other courses. Please get in contact. That's me, Mai.
Oh, thank you, Phil. It was very inspirational, and we already got very pumped. I hope that after this, more and people in conservation will practice, and we will be out there and speak about our work, so then more people can understand what we are doing for conservation through public speaking. And so up next will be the topic on presentation skill and persuasion in conservation. So please welcome Jamie Oliver. I pass you can share the screen now.
Is it working?
I think you have to click share.
Move it on there, on there.
Maybe we should do it. Screen two. Wow. Yeah, give us a moment. I think it's always the technical.
Sure.
Let's see when we try to see.
It says that I'm screen sharing here.
Yes, but you don't want that one. You want the share screen under the screen, so we can all see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see his inside? Yes.
So fine.
Okay.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. We are here and ready to go. I really enjoyed Phil's presentation then, and I was really pleased at how many similarities there were between Phil's and my presentation. It makes me feel like I'm going in the right direction. So there'll be a little bit of repetition from Phil's, but I think that's a good thing, reinforcing some of the things that Phil said. So first of all, I'm Jamie. As we said earlier, I'm doing a master's degree in conservation and ecology, and I'm going to talk to you about effective communication skills in conservation and in presenting in particular. Okay, so the number one thing when you're doing a presentation is to make sure that you're fully prepared. Consider the audience that you will be talking to or doing your presentation in front of. The two things I would say about that is to always assume that they are intelligent professional people. They normally will be, so don't dumb down. But having said that, try to avoid using technical language and acronyms in your presentations that they might not be familiar with. Think about how you structure and order your presentation. It really makes a difference. There should be a start, a middle, and an end, as Phil said. So think about the order that you're putting things in. I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And then exactly the same three terms that Phil used: practice, practice, and practice. I can't stress how important that is. For me particularly, as I mentioned earlier, I hated doing presentations and public speaking when I started my career 20 years ago, having done probably 500, between 500 and 1,000 now. I am better than I used to be. I'm not going to say I'm very good because you're here listening to me, but I'm definitely better than I used to be. In education, in lessons particularly, we use something called a hook, which is a compelling opening, something that grabs the attention of your audience. I would suggest doing the same. Phil mentioned something similar in his. A powerful story, an image, a video, a statistic, could be a thought-provoking question. If you're doing a presentation rather than just speaking, you have the advantage of being able to use images. And I've got a few examples here for the Bornean elephants. This was taken from the IUCN Red List website, and it's clearly a startling statistic. There are only 399 adult Bornean elephants left in the wild, and that trend is decreasing, which is obviously a big problem. Coupled with that, I've got a graph that shows the number of elephants that were killed every year from 2010 to 2019, and you can see that there's a general upward trend. The numbers on the side there, so with over 30 killed in 2018 out of a total of 399, around 400 adults. That is a significant proportion of the elephants. And don't be afraid to use distressing images. This one isn't very pleasant to look at. It's got a baby elephant that's got significantly injured leg because it has been trapped in a snare. It isn't very nice. It is not very nice to look at, but it is the situation that these animals are facing, and these are the kind of issues that we're trying to support. Early on in your presentation, I would advise setting out a clear vision and communicating that with your audience. Just make it very clear what it is that you want to achieve from your presentation. I put an example at the bottom there. I won't read through it, but it's from proboscis monkeys in Borneo again, and it sets out the vision very clearly. If you are using data in your presentation, I would advise keeping numbers very simple. Big tables of data don't look good on the screen or difficult to interpret. Any complicated formulas and so on should be avoided. If you are looking to demonstrate trends and patterns, then you can use charts and graphs. And if you have some spatial data, maps can be very effective. And I'll just talk about a very quick example here. This map again is from Bornean elephants. The green areas are pristine rainforests. The yellow areas are oil palm plantations. And the overlay, the kind of orangey pink color, is the home range for those elephants, or the movement range. They were tagged with GPS collars, so it's very accurate data. And you can see from this how important the river system is. The river runs all the way through the home range of the elephants, so that's very important that that's protected. You can see the forest reserve around the river is very important. They spend a lot of their time there. But you can also see how often or how much time elephants spend in oil palm plantations. And that's where some of the human-elephant conflict is occurring and is obviously a conservation concern for us. Smart objectives you will have seen 1,000 times before, I'm sure, so I won't talk through them individually, but I would advise having these up in your office somewhere, on your fridge at home, or on your home screen on your computer, and just remembering when you're doing your objectives that you include all of them. I'm awful if I haven't got them there and I miss one or two out all of the time, so just try and keep them around somewhere that you'll see them. And there's another example there about Bornean elephants again. It says 10%, 2035, and so on. When looking at actions in conservation, following your objectives, so your objectives set out what you're trying to achieve, and then your actions will say how you're going to achieve that. Make sure that they themselves are clear and achievable, but also think about the results chain. If you have an action, does it lead to your objective being resolved? The example I'll give is if you ban hunting in a national park and you make it illegal, that doesn't of itself stop hunting from happening. There are lots of other things that we need to do in between putting the law to say that you can't hunt. We need to be educating local people. We need to do education programs at school. We need to provide viable alternatives for food sources or whatever it might be. Putting in an action doesn't automatically mean that your objective will be achieved, and it's important to remember not to make those assumptions. With our actions, try and make them evidence-based. We need to know if they're likely to be effective or not. I've included a link to a website at the bottom. I think we're going to send this presentation out, so you don't need to write this down. Conservation evidence, it looks at actions in conservation. This is what the homepage looks like. You can search for species, actions, just use a keyword in the website, and it will summarize the scientific research related to that action and the target species. So as an example here, I've just put monkey in, very simple. There were actually 52 actions. I've just shown the top 5. If you look at the third one down, run tourist projects and ensure permanent human presence at site, has a trade-off in the next one in its effectiveness. There's some good and some bad. There are 8 studies that are synthesized to get to this conclusion, and that you can see the category is primates at the end. So it's really useful for telling us whether our actions are likely to be impactful or not. Something a little bit more complicated is a psychological theory called message framing theory. It basically means if you put a positive spin or a negative spin on your message, that has a big impact on whether people pay attention. And it makes a difference in different circumstances. So you need to be think about how you're using it. But studies have shown that it plays a crucial role in shaping our behavior and our decision making. There isn't that much evidence related directly to conservation yet, but I read a study the other day. 500 people were tested with positive and negative messages, and it showed that quite considerable greater financial support was given to messages that had a positive frame rather than a negative one. An example that's sometimes given is that if an operation has a 90% chance of success, we feel pretty good. If we were to say the operation has a 10% chance of failure or a fatality rate of 10%, we take a very different view, even though they pretty much mean the same thing. So how we frame our message is really important. Another psychological technique is reducing psychological distance. Psychological distance is just how far away we feel from an issue. And there's kind of 3 elements to that. The first one is social. So do we feel that the people like us are being affected? So when you're trying to get your message across or persuade donors in your meetings, then if you can get them to think that people like themselves are being affected or people like their family, then that will make them more likely to support you. There's a geographic element, so people tend to take action for things that are closer to home. So you can talk about it being local or in a particular state or a particular country, and that makes people more likely to be motivated and take action. And also temporal, so time-based. If you say it's going to be happening soon, there's more of an emergency kind of feel to it. If you can say it's going to happen within our lifetime or our children's lifetime, then it makes people more likely to act. Just a couple of basic ones now. Delivery, when you're doing your presentation, try to stand as relaxed and confident as you can. If you can give that body language out, it also helps you mentally, makes you more confident. Feel free to scan the room, walk around, make natural gestures. It can look a little bit more natural than standing on one spot, staring out to one spot in the distance. So move around as naturally as you can. And don't be afraid to take your time. Sometimes if you have a pause in a presentation, it feels like an eternity to you, but your audience won't even notice. So just take your time. Authenticity is really important, and I think Phil touched on this as well. So you can talk about your credentials, your organization, what you've done, your experience, but you need to make sure that you know your work. You will be a lot more confident if you feel confident in your knowledge of what you're talking about. It is really important to prepare and to know and understand what you're talking about. And bring in your passion and your enthusiasm. Bill mentioned this as well. It is infectious. If you're passionate and enthusiastic about a cause, then it's more likely that your audience will come along with you. And finally, the 4 top tips that I think probably helped me the most when I was trying to develop my presentation skills was not reading from slides. It looks robotic. It doesn't look professional. And I found it more difficult if you lose your place when you're reading from a slide. You get panic sets in and it's very difficult. If you just have bullet points and talk about those, it tends to be easier, even if it doesn't feel quite so secure. Try and remember always your mistakes feel so much worse to you than they do to anyone else. I think I've stumbled over my words a few times in this presentation, but I doubt any of you have noticed. In my younger days, I would have panicked and got red and embarrassed, but there really isn't any worry when you make mistakes in presentations. Nobody else cares at all. There's loads of research online, so just get online and have a look. You can use AI, you can use all sorts of tools these days, to get tips and hints on how to do presentations. There's lots of stuff out there. And just like Phil said, the most important thing for me was believing what I was doing. I used to get too preoccupied with doing a good presentation and not concentrate on my message. But the message is the number one priority when you're doing a presentation. And when you realize that and you feel confident in that, that helps you with your presentation no end. That's it from me. So I shall hand back over to Mai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. Oh, thank you. It was very effective, and I can see myself also need that a lot, because for my work I do make the presentation, and then it's, I don't know whether speaking in public is scarier or actually presenting to your donor, which is like we have to do that in our work. So thank you again, Jamie, and hope that also helpful to the audience today. And last but not least, I would like to invite Amy for her topic on social media. Yeah. Okay, maybe I can help. Okay, maybe you want to speak first, and then you need the help to set up. Let me go.
Wait, I have no idea.
Yeah.
What?
Wait. Let me do it. This one, and then you are on. Okay.
Everyone can see me.
I think everyone can see you.
Okay. Thank you, Phil and Jamie, for starting off. I feel like everyone reflects kind of the same values, which I think is great to see in different perspectives and also different avenues. I'm a big believer that there isn't one way to do something. And the number one consistent value that each Jamie and Phil has talked about is storytelling. So I have a tiny little story about how I became to where I am today. So I started my career 10 years ago in the music industry. I've been managed for 7 years by myself, and I was managed by management in my early days when I was in the music industry. And I was a country music singer and songwriter in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was being pushed as the first Asian and specifically Vietnamese country singer. So the strategy within that, because it was so controversial, was through marketing and was through social media. And social media not only being online, but in TV, in PR, because we needed to reach outside of where I was in Tennessee that had a lot of political bias towards Asian and Vietnamese singers in general. And so the number one thing that I had to do was not only perform well in front of a camera and speaking and being myself and not having stage fright, but also staying authentic. And authenticity is the only reason that I am where I am today. If I tried to be anyone else or deliver any type of messaging that would fit more of the norm of what was normal at that time, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so storytelling through the lens of social media and through the lens of film does something that I truly believe is the most effective, because in the end, people listen with their eyes. It's almost like that other saying, people need to see it to believe it. And so anyone who read my story on a girl who went through self-harm and eating disorders and had self-harm scars up her arm, who really would believe that that person could then become a singer, become an entrepreneur, do a TED Talk, do TV, do documentaries, get in a newspaper? You've got to see it to believe it. And that's the same with conservation. And so in conservation itself, social media is super helpful because we're able to communicate for those who cannot communicate. So the earth, the animals, the indigenous tribes who hold the stories and hold the root of what conservation is can be told through us if we're able to deliver the message on what it actually is. And because I talk about seeing to believing, I came with some social media videos on the to-dos and what not to do.
And so the first social media video that I'm going to show is something that I very much look for and how I communicate. I grew up on The Crocodile Hunter. And so I've always had a deep, deep passion for conservation, but I also had a deep passion on how he was able to communicate conservation through emotion, you know, instead of depending on specific facts. He was able to show the actual sense to where if I say, you know, snakes or crocodiles aren't harmless, you know, or a monkey isn't going to attack you, which I know is a thing in Vietnam, you know, you don't believe it until you actually see it. And so there's also a guy that I very much look up to by the name of Paul Rosalie, who is working to save the Amazon rainforest. And I borrowed one of his videos to show you guys on a sense on what you can do. Okay, let's see if it's showing.
It was one of the most incredible wildlife encounters I've ever had. We were coming downriver, and this is the Amazon at full rainy season, so the river is huge. And this little spider monkey.
Hold on. Wait.
And I tried to look through all one of the monks pregnant.
Okay, we need to restart. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay. Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. Let me do this. And then wait a second. Okay, I share again.
Not great at social media. On technology side, the logistics is not my strong suit.
Okay.
Okay.
It works? Okay.
It was one of the most incredible wildlife encounters I've ever had. We were coming downriver, and this is the Amazon at full rainy season, so the river is huge. And this little spider monkey, she was drowning. She wasn't able to get to the side, and I saw her head slip under. Right as I got to her, she went underwater and was actually starting to drown. And I tried to lift her up, but she just got more scared, grabbed a lungful of air, and kept paddling frantically. But I knew she needed a break, so I lifted her up, and she looked at me. And you could just see the expression on her face, like, what is going on? Who are you? And I didn't want her to run, and so I tried speaking to her in Spider Monkey. I said, and you could hear her make an exclamation. She goes, what? And I just said, she said, okay, good enough. And I saw her then, all of a sudden, when she heard something that resembled her own dialect, she held on with her tail and with her hands, and she's trying to walk. And by this point, I could stand, and she was just holding on. And you could tell she was like, what is going on, and who are you? But she was so thankful to not be drowning. She just kept looking back at me, just absolutely perplexed. We just had these amazing little moments of eye contact. And when I reached the river's edge, she just swung off, and then on all fours, she just scampered off into the trees, rescued and safe.
Okay. So with that video, I think it's a perfect example on being to believing. You know, I don't think everyone's going to jump in the water to see a monkey, but the things that Paul does really, really well is he doesn't necessarily have to tell you exactly about a spider monkey to show you not only the beauty, but also little fun facts within. You know, he showed that these monkeys can cross the rivers. He showed the Amazon River in the conservation aspect on climate or whatever that makes the river flow faster, because these animals are usually crossing, but they can sometimes get swept away. And the most impressive thing is that Paul grew up in the Amazon, I think, since like 17, to where he was able to learn from the indigenous tribes and learn and be that voice for everyone else, because he is a young, attractive guy who is interested in conservation. And he showed exactly what a spider monkey may sound like. And he showed this possibility that you would not believe that happened unless you saw it. And that's a way of social media, is truly seeing to believing. Like I said, I don't recommend you jumping out of a river to save a monkey, but it shows the aspect of a way to promote that social media of conservation, is going into showing the dangers, showing the real life, because it draws people attention. You can obviously tell how many likes and follows he has due to that. I'm going to show an example of what not to do.
Be wombat.
It's not on yet. Oh, it's on. Okay.
Sorry.
Look at the mother. It's like, oh, it's chasing after her.
I got a baby wombat. Okay, Mama's right there, and she is pissed. Let's let him go.
No, he's right.
All right.
So I think without even explaining, you can see that this is something not to do. The only thing it does is promoting oneself. It promotes the girl in, a negative way that she might have thought was positive at the beginning. It just shows no aspect of wombats and conservation. It has no messaging within conservation. It's just to promote oneself. Yes, it got a lot of attention, but you can tell that, like everyone said, people are not dumb. People can figure out what is true and what is fake. And I'm very happy, not for karma, but I'm happy that Indigenous tribes, the Australian government, and people who truly know what wombat then had the opportunity to say, this is not what wombats represent. This is not what Australia represents. This is not what conservation represents. And ironically, through this video, it then gave the experts and gave the conservationists actually the spotlight to speak out, to where I do not condone this aspect of social media, but to find some light from this tragedy, there is that aspect to where this is what not to do. And then you have someone like me who is more specialized in brand development and marketing and mental health, but who has a deep passion for conservation, to where I partnered with the knowledge of conservation, which was Conservation Vietnam. I went to Katyn National Park, learned from the anti-poachers to be able to create a video on why I choose to do conservation on a broader expansion to allow you not necessarily to be educated by conservation, but to be inspired and to know that anyone can do conservation. And so this is another way of doing social media, is keeping it broad. Oopsie. I'm not a logistics person. Can I say that? Okay.
People think I'm crazy and ask me, why did you get so close to that crocodile? Why did you touch that snake? Why did you wait around looking at monkeys? Why did you climb that tree? Because people listen with their eyes. Would you welcome these animals and natures into your world if I didn't have the passion to show you? I think we as humans, we sometimes separate our own individual world from the world, forgetting that we are grounded on this earth that started with these animals and these trees and these forests first, and how much responsibility we have to protect our shared home. I find conservation not as just protecting wildlife and animals, it's protecting our human connection to earth and our passion to live on it, just like these animals, these trees, and these lives.
So to wrap up, you can see that there's so many different avenues for social media, but the main message in each is, like Phil and Jamie said, there's a core, there's a value, there's a root, and there's a story. The story is the focus on conservation, but whatever that means to you, whether it is wildlife, biodiversity, environment, you learn from the experts, from the soul, from the root of where that started, and you work as a team to help communicate that through social media, because social media is the way that one world can go out into the world. And so I hope this was helpful for you, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, let me put this back. Okay, I'm now invited all our guests to come back, and I think we're going to have a discussion. Let me see. Okay, I will turn on this. All right, and check the voice. Yep. Everyone can hear still. Are you doing okay? Thank you so much. So the Katyn is like one of the place that you can easily see the wildlife. Actually, Amy, we and Amy went together, and we were so lucky that we even got to see more animals than we expected, and especially the crocodile. They was like coming up very close. But with the support from the anti-poacher and the ranger at the Gatin. So we were in a very safe place. And in fact, the Siamese crocodile, they're also very gentle.
Very gentle.
And like before that, even in Gatin, people still say that they're afraid that the crocodile and human in conflict. But when we there get to learn about the animal, knowing that they only eat fish and there has not been any human conflict.
No human conflict. And through that one video that we took of a woman or a girl or a small child-looking figure in front of a Siamese crocodile, and there's no aggression on either side, you really can truly see with your eyes that, oh, maybe they're not as dangerous as we think.
Yep, okay, thank you. I think now I would like to invite our audience. If you have any question, now is the time. You can either type in the chat box, or if you want to speak straight directly to our speaker, you can raise your hand and open your camera so we can hear your question directly. We also have some of our volunteers today from ENV Ho Chi Minh City that would help us to keep track of the questions, if any. Yeah, thank you guys. But to start with, Phil, may I start with asking you some questions first? So with your extensive experience in sustainability education and running programs before like speaking for the planet, what key strategy have you found most effective for engaging diverse audience in conservation, especially through public speaking?
Two things. Thanks, Mai. Good question. Two things. The first one, it might seem a little unusual, but it's be honest. Be a trustworthy person and a trustworthy, honest organization. Be transparent. Do what you say you will do. Build trust in the audience that you're speaking to. That's not just good for funders, that's also good for the communities, plural, that you're speaking with. So that's the first one. It's personal, and it's also organizational. Be honest. The second one is to understand that people change for their own reasons, at their own pace, and in their own time. And so our job isn't to get people to change for our reason. Our job, our challenge is to help people find their own reasons for changing. And both Jamie and Amy have mentioned that as well. We need to understand what drives and motivates and switches on our audience. And it's not one person, one audience, everyone's different. We need to understand that the drivers will be different for different people. For some people, it's a walk in the forest by themselves or with others. For others, it's facts and figures or a beautiful image or a short, sharp video, such as Amy showed us. For other people, it's caring for specific animals. It could even be their own pet or other animals, or falling in love with a river or a creek or a waterfall or a forest. For others, it's the adventure and the adrenaline of being out there in nature. We have to help people find their own reason for change, because your reason won't be theirs. It might be similar, but it's not going to be theirs. And so we need to know our audience. Certainly as an organization, as an individual, you need to model the behaviors that you're encouraging and inspiring others to take up. But we have to help people find their own reasons.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Phil. Very inspiring. And it seems like we know that there's a lot of audience type out there. So in order for conservation to reach as many audience as possible, we need more speaker. You can be speaking up about your passion for adventure, or your appreciation to nature, or just your interest from just one or two species. But when you speak up out there, it would inspire others to join our hands in supporting conservation.
Thank you for that. May I always say one more thing? Certainly here in Vietnam, it's very different to Australia, my home country. Here in Vietnam, there's a passionate love for the country. And that might be one vehicle that you can use to help people find their reason. That love is palpable. And it's a possible starting point. And let me ask the audience if there's anyone out there who knows how to use or turn that pride and love of country into not littering, please get in contact with me.
Yes, so to our audience out there, if you are listening and you want to engage with us, just feel free to open up your camera and your microphone and just engage with our speaker. In the meantime, I want to ask Amy for the second question. Like, as someone who transitioned from the music industry to mental health advocacy, how do you use storytelling and social media to connect with people emotionally and inspire action for conservation causes?
I think the main thing that I'm grateful to have learned very young is that my job is not social media. And in the end, social media is not a job because it's virtual. You know, I would rather spend my entire life and career in the physical world. I did public speaking for 3 years as my main job in schools in America. And I used social media as a tool to promote what I did in the physical world virtually. It's almost like in the music industry, you create a song and you put it on Spotify that has global reach. But your job is to not specifically make something to promote virtually. That is a job. That's the influencer job. But when you are working for something other than yourself, like conservation, like mental health, like whatever you're desiring to do, the focus should always be on making sure that it evolves in the physical world and capturing how the evolution is in the physical world through social media.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. How about your Jamie Oliver? So we do have a questions from Ishmael International School, that how school and studies be involved with conservation, how education organization and outdoor provider be part of the change and help.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that the children really are the key to this. It's a bit of a cliche to say children are the future, but they are. We need to make sure that our young people are aware of the issues in conservation. I know from a personal point of view that when I was young, my father used to take me out and we'd go out and see wildlife and then go out into nature. And that instilled the love and the passion for nature in me that I've still got now, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing at the moment. Some children aren't as fortunate as that. Some people don't have the opportunity, but schools can provide opportunities for pupils to be exposed to nature and conservation issues. There's lots of things like assemblies that we can do to talk about the issues with the children. We can run after school clubs. There are things that we can do actually within the curriculum. I know one of my favorites is to have what we'd call a drop-down day or a drop-down week, where every lesson would be based on conservation. But in your maths lesson, you'd be looking at data and graphs about conservation. In your history lesson, you'd be looking about, say, maybe the ivory trade or something that happened in the past. And you can have a whole theme for a week or for a day within the school, still doing the subjects that we're going to be eventually sitting exams on, because that is important in schools, but we can build conservation into the curriculum that we use. Talking about exams, personally, I would like to see some more environment and conservation-based exams, so that we would actually be following courses that would lead to qualifications in this area, and also build the profile of our the subject, if you like. At the moment, we don't have that. That's something that we need to get politicians on board with, so that we can get more conservation qualifications. But I think that would be a real step in the right direction.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jamie. You want to say something? What are you saying? Would you want to say to add something for that?
I think Jamie said it beautifully. I think, you know, there may be a time that it may go politically, but I think that's why it's so important for all of us in our own individual worlds. And ironically, just by the grace of divine timing, we're all from different continents. So it's amazing to see how these leaders are coming out of specific countries and continents, all wanting the same thing and all taking different approaches. And I think that's as much as all of us can do at the moment until that political side gets involved.
I will say to all the teachers now, I used to be a teacher. I know how busy everybody is. There was a long list of things you could do there. I know you haven't the time or the resources available to do those things. Hopefully one day.
Yeah. Going back to Phil, I think there actually a question like As an expert in environmental education, in extensive experience in environmental education in Vietnam, could you share the advantage and the challenges you have encountered in raising the environmental awareness among young people through education? Since we are
Sorry,
on the topic of education at the moment.
Mai, I'm sorry. Would you mind asking that question again?
Oh, okay. So the questions we have is that as an expert in environmental education and extensive experience that you have in Vietnam, what are the advantage and the challenges you have encountered in education? So raising the awareness, because we know that you work closely with the student as
Kids
well.
want to speak up. Kids want to talk. They've got opinions, they've got feelings, they've got fears, they've got hopes. Kids want to be heard. They want to be given the opportunity to speak up. And so anything we can do to create a safe space for them to prepare and present and share their passion is a really powerful way of supporting young people to do the things that the three or four of us have said this afternoon. They want to be heard. There's so much research that says that young people are hurting. They're hurting from climate change. They're hurting from species loss. They're hurting from, just the physical stuff of families and communities having to get up and move because of the impacts of climate change. That's one level. But young people everywhere are concerned about the future. And it's wrong of us if we don't create spaces, safe spaces for them to talk. And so that's the first point. Second point, I'm not an expert. I've just been doing it for a long time, so I know a few things. Thirdly, challenges. One of the greatest challenges is the system, the education systems that they work in. I can talk at length about the Australian education system. I can't talk at any length about the Vietnamese system. I know a little bit, but it occurs to me that it's the education systems themselves that are the barriers to involving young people in genuine conversations about sustainability, about their future. And so it's not just communities and families and kids who need to make changes, who want to be heard. Systems must make the change to enable that. In Australia, we're a long way from that. In Australia, the education system says, here's the main stuff. Oh, by the way, sustainability is important. If you can squeeze it into the million things you've got to do as a teacher, do that. And so sustainability is still put on the periphery. Sustainability must be the core purpose of education. Give young people a chance. Let's work on the systems as well as building capacity in our communities.
Thank you so much, Phil. I see there's Mr. Thảo from Fauna and Flora here with us, and he has sent in the questions earlier, and it's quite an interesting question. So I just open for anyone to answer. Is that how to handle a media crisis when making the wrong statement in public? How would you handle it? It's the hard questions.
I think coming from my experience on working in Vietnam for 6 years while still learning Vietnamese is truly fighting for what you want to say, but work with the ones who know it the most. So gaining the knowledge and finding a way to communication, checking back with the team, and then making sure that that is communicated directly, because it's not ever about what the end message is. It's all about how you communicate that message. I think it depends. Like I said earlier with the crisis on the messaging about the baby wombat, it was completely the wrong message, but it allowed the right people to then gain the spotlight on delivering the right message. And because of that media crisis at the beginning, people were confused, to where when people are confused, they start thinking for themselves and they depend on a leader, on an expert to come in and validate their own feelings and their own emotions on what is right or wrong. And then they're able to make their own choice, which in the end, opinions are opinions. My entire career was created off of hate and racism, to where it was very hard, but because I was able to withstand it, you were able to turn it into, yes, this happens, and yes, you can't control, but it doesn't stop you. And so I think all of those on getting your facts right and being able to stay strong, knowing that one person, one media crisis won't ruin you. You should listen to some of my early days where I tried to speak Vietnamese on Vietnamese radio, and I got cut because I mispronounced a word that was a different word, you know, but you move on and you learn.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add in anything?
Well, I don't have any media experience really, but I've made plenty of mistakes in my career, in the workplace, and throughout life. I think three things really. You have to just admit you've got something wrong, apologize, and then keep going.
May I offer something? We learn to be good soccer players by watching good soccer players. We learn to be good speakers by watching good speakers. And I advise everyone to find a good speaker and follow them or follow a couple. We also learn how to deal with mistakes by watching people who fail. And right now, just keep watching what Trump's doing and you'll see failure after failure after failure. Don't do what he does. That would be a strategy.
Okay, second question from Mr. Thao. I kind of like this one too, is how to invite famous speaker to join the program. Like, you guys are here. I'm sure you have, there, I think Amy was more into the famous celebrity side, and Phil, I know you also get yourself familiar with the market, but Jamie, maybe you just knew, but you probably was the famous teacher in your earlier career.
As a teacher, we did have guest speakers coming in a lot. And if you got famous people who went to your school, if you have famous people that lived locally, we always used to try to get them in. You just have to ask, and ask a lot of people, and you probably get turned down a lot of times. But it's just about putting yourself out there and ask as many as you can. And you'd be surprised to get back to you. I'm sat here now because I sent 50 emails across the world to conservation places asking to do some volunteering, and you got back to me.
Oh.
So thank you. You just have to get the message out.
Yeah. You want to say, Amy?
I've had a lot of experience in good deals and bad deals with fame. You know, conservation is the same, I think, with anything else when it comes to television. People want ratings, people want engagement, especially when you get to the higher level, like Discovery Channel, Travel Channel, National Geographic. They want a story. They want something dramatic to happen, to where even if a big thing personally was when I was about to find my birth mom and TV was wanting to film it. But me finding my birth mom after 27 years of not finding her wasn't enough. You know, they like the drama, they like the draw, and you then get to choose how you want to do it. Paul Rosalie, the guy who Save the Monkey, has a very famous story about how he was working in the Amazon to show anacondas. And the Discovery Channel said, this is famous, this is me telling his story. The Discovery Channel said, we'll give you 2 hours. We'll give you a multi-million-dollar budget to talk about all the conservation, all the wildlife you want. You have to get eaten by an anaconda. You have to get eaten by anaconda, and we will give you the money. We will give you everything. And he's like, that just doesn't happen. You don't get eaten by anaconda. There are cases, and they're like, no, we need you to prove that it can happen. And so he did have to think about it at the beginning, like, is this the rap that I want to give anacondas? You then have to make the choice. And luckily, when you are very passionate and you're able to be a good host, you can sway it to where he did it, but he made sure that everyone saw that it wasn't in the wild, him in the wild getting eaten. He was in a contained suit, not getting injured. He showed it was possible, but he was able to spin what Discovery initially wanted into how he wanted to project out what it means to get eaten, what it's like to get eaten, not that anacondas are man-eaters. And so you got to work with the television, but to attract that fame, to attract that celebrity, like, you got to have this aspect of drama. And, you know, I had drama in my early career that I allowed. You know, it's just whether or not you are wanting to go bigger picture but staying true to your core and your values, and also making sure that if you are working with a company, if you are working for an Aboriginal tribe, you communicate with them, because you representing someone on a bigger screen, and the message is wrong, like we talked about before with the media crisis, you can completely ruin an aspect of conservation. You can completely ruin an aspect of a business. And so it's great to have famous people, you know, it's great to have advocates, but in the end, they really can't do much for you. And I promise that I had big names attached to my name, but it did not cut out the racism or the chances I got. It really doesn't do as much, I think, as people think. And that's why passion is the best way to do it. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that long.
No, it's what? I'm so sorry. Want to add anything else? Phil?
Oh, I'm sorry. A comment on that particular topic, or just to wrap up? What? Not sure.
Well, actually, I think our time is up. So we out of time, and what an amazing session. I think we can keep this conversation going, and it can last all night, but I think now's the time. It's 5 o'clock, so let's wrap it up. So thank you again for your contribution to our topic today, Phil, Emmy, and Jamie. And I'm so grateful that you share your wisdom with us. 1 second, I see someone is on the screen. Hello, Anne. Would you like to say something? Then you can just turn on the microphone.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. This afternoon I was in the meeting, so I joined your workshop a bit late. Thank you for your presentation today. I would like to have some maybe some question or maybe some idea to share with you. So first, I would like to ask you that your experience. One, we have a presentation to talk about conservation, biodiversity, or maybe plastic pollution. So how can we have a good introduction so that we can get our audience get involved deeply our project or our presentation or our talks? The second thing is that to me, education from young students is very important for our conservation. So have you got any experience how to integrate our issue, for example, conservation or climate change or let me say climate change or plastic pollution into the current curriculum at the high school or secondary school, especially in Vietnam? Because I know that now most of the teacher at the secondary school, they are responsible for natural science. However, most of them, they don't have much experience on conservation, ecology, biodiversity, or climate change. So difficult for them to help students to understand much about this issue. And the third point I would like to discuss with you that to me, the tour guide, especially the tour guide for ecotourism or sustainable ecotourism, they are very important to help us to impart our message in terms of conservation to the guests. So, but so far, according to my experience, I know that many tour guide they don't have a deeply background of ecology conservation. So difficult for them to become a tour guide, especially for the ecotourism trip. So what do you think? I don't know how about your experience about that, but to me, I found that in Washington City, I contacted some tour guide, but they told me that they didn't study ecology or conservation. So when they have a trip, they organize a tour, they often contact the local guy and ask the local guy respond for this tour. So do you think we should pay attention to educate about conservation or biodiversity to the tour guides? So thank you.
I'm sorry, are you asking me?
For everybody, for everybody.
I'm
Okay.
happy to respond.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much, Anne. Okay. Let me do the question again. So number one is about ice breaking, or how we're going to make our topic interesting for the audience to catch the attention. Second one is how we integrate it into education, and the third one is about how ecotourism, that they do not have the background on ecology. So should we focus on teaching the tour guide?
I'm happy to take this tourism one if you like.
Okay, so tourism, the last one. Who wants to do the ice breaking? Phil, can you hear us well?
Which one do you want me to respond to, Maya?
Well, maybe Amy, you take the ice breaking, and then you take the second one, Phil.
I'm happy to speak about in response to all of them.
Okay, maybe you start first. Yes, Phil, go ahead.
Okay. The answer to your last question is it important to educate tour guides? There's only one answer, and that is yes. Everyone plays a part. Everyone plays a part. If tour guides don't think that the environment's important, see how many people want to take a cruise around Halong Bay if it's covered in plastic and sewage. Zero. And so, of course, it's important. I've just done a bit of work with the Vietnam Tourism Association. So tourism and sustainability are front of mind. But I want to go to a bigger answer in how do you do it? And I want to tell you 5 different ways. And then it's a knowledge-based approach to strategic planning. The first one is know the problem and the context. You described a few things, but we can talk about plastic pollution, but where, who, when, how, what infrastructure? Know the problem and the context of that problem. Number 2, know yourself and your purpose, and whether you're an individual, you're a company, you're a school, you're a university, you're a training provider for young people who will become tour guides. Know yourself. Number 3, know your partners. Who else can work with you? Who else cares enough to work on your particular topic? Find them, work with them. Number 4, know the tools, the educational interventions, and it's not just education, it could be law, it could be infrastructure. When I say law, it could be fines, it could be incentives, it could be infrastructure. A whole lot of things go into those tools. Know what they are, education's one of them, and use them properly. And then my last one is know how you'll know. How will you know that your intervention is having an effect? And you must be thinking about that as number 1.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. Jamie, go ahead.
I'll take the engage in education one.
Yeah, sure. Any, you can.
Yeah, that's fine. So I think the question was about how do we engage pupils in education, particularly in primary school. I was a secondary school teacher, so I have less experience than in primary school, but I think that the principles are the same. I was a geography teacher, and a lot of the geography that's taught in the UK at the moment is issues-based. So we would look at climate change, we would look at plastic pollution, we would look at trophy hunting in Africa, lots of issues-based things. And children, teenagers particularly, but young children as well, love those issues-based topics. If you can get them excited or feeling passionate about a topic, the next hour is great. It flies by. They really want to soak up all the information that they can. And so if you could start off with something that challenges them. So a beach that is covered in plastic. Talk about where's this plastic from? Why is it here? How did it get here? If you can pose those kind of questions that they want to find out the answers to, then that will engage them and hopefully bring them on into the kind of topics that we want them to be learning about. Unfortunately, it's not part of the curriculum in the UK. I don't know about in Vietnam. There's not enough about these environmental-based issues in our curriculum, and it would be great if they were there and we had to teach them. But passionate teachers who care about conservation, who care about the planet and the environment, will spend some time going the extra mile to put these resources together. But it's exposing the children to those issues and asking them questions, and they generally will be interested and engaged in those topics.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what the third one, what the second one was.
The tour guide. About the tourism.
I think, well, no, Phil covered it perfectly. I think that the third thing is that they do need guidance, support, training, as everybody does in every walk of life, but it is very important. Was there anything else?
Thanks for that question, by the way.
How to make
those 3 questions.
Yeah.
How to make it interesting to share.
There is an introduction so that we can get the audience. Attractive introduction.
I think everyone is individually in the nicest way, and I think every human can admit it. We care on how it impacts us personally. So it's finding some connection. But I think there's a huge issue on blaming the consumer, to where if your conservation message is don't use plastic straws and the consumer uses a plastic straw, they're going to say, oh, there's nothing I can do to help conservation because they said that conservation is don't using plastic straws. I'm using plastic straws. It's the messaging also from the conservationists on why, or focusing more on the manufacturing side and allowing them to understand that they can create something. They could create, this younger generation could create something that is unknown to all of us. So it's connecting on how they can be placed within anything, like Phil and Jamie both said on the earlier about whether you love your animal, whether you love your dog, whether you love a tree. It's finding the root of where that initially comes from and connecting them to the earth, and in all connecting to where animals, trees, everyone was here before us, especially in Vietnam. You know, do we want it to end with humans? Or do we want the humans to help evolve Vietnam and continue living in Vietnam? And I think that's a message I personally try to deliver is Vietnam is special. We value Vietnam. We have some of the only animals in the world in Catin, like the Siamese crocodile and other animals. You connect it to what they are passionate about, but allow others to speak on what they love. And then the conservationists can then listen to what they were and say, oh, you love this specific animal, or you do love ecotourism. This is the route you could take, and give them the choice to choose for themselves on the passion for them to connect with what they're actually speaking about or be doing conservation on.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Phil and Jamie. I think, anh Vĩ, are you still there? Okay, he's still there.
I had just hitched up the car.
We are there.
Yeah. I stay on the beach because I don't want to miss out this the workshop. So
thank you so much.
So by the way, in terms of integrated education into the current curriculum, according to my experience in Vietnam, the teacher don't want to have more lesson or more information besides their current curriculum. So I'm thinking about to find out any suitable subjects. For example, in the curriculum of grade number 7, we have some lectures like ecology, the climate change. So we try to use that lesson, and then we can work with them to adjust information. We use the same knowledge, same information, but we can add our new information. For example, when we talk about the lesson about animal behavior, in fact, the teacher don't know much about sea turtle. So when we talk about sea turtle, we have this teacher understand much about why the sea turtle become richly endangered species now. So the teacher can help students understand more about that. So that's the way I would like to think in the future. So if you already have some experience how to integrate the lesson, such a lesson into the curriculum, so maybe I would like to keep in touch and share with you. Mm-hmm. And in terms of ecotourism, I'm thinking about try to work with the university that they are teaching tourism or ecotourism to teach students, because some university they already have a tourism department. They are teaching tourism, but there's no lesson about ecology, biodiversity, or ecotourism. So that's that's the thing that I would like to think how to get in touch with the university and how to teach students about that issue. Yeah.
May I respond to that? I've spent time working in education systems and sustainability here in Vietnam. This morning, I was at the Hanoi College of Commerce and Tourism. They do exactly what you're talking about. And I'm trying to have a conversation with them about how we better integrate sustainability into their tourism programs. I'm also doing some work with the Vietnam Japan University on global development, sustainability and innovation. So I'd be very happy to speak with you outside of this session about integrating environmental education into the curriculum.
Can I say something real fast? Can I add on that?
Okay. Yes.
I ran into this problem when I was developing workshops for mental health, and it led me to an opportunity to where I was very much welcomed into Vietnamese universities to be a public speaker for mental health. But then I realized that there are so many people in Vietnam to where I actually co-created and co-developed an 8-session educational program about teaching emotions and mental health and how to communicate them through art, music, and sound. But we actually targeted underprivileged schools and social work children who should have the same equality as anyone in the university, but they have a deeper passion to fit in and to feel like they also belong. But ironically, with us doing it in social work environments, you know, it's almost exclusive to where the universities actually came after they heard about this education program. RMIT came to me and wanted to actually take the model that I did with Thao Den and D3 Thao Den Social Children's Services and actually bring it to RMIT. So it's kind of a balance, because I feel like anyone, we go towards the social crowd and towards the norm, to where there's always ways around it, to where you have your overall goal and you have the steps to get there. But I found that also there are so many people who want to do it. It just might not be exactly where you are looking for at the moment with the higher system. There are still kids on the lower system who also want to learn about it, that you have a ton of a better chance because there is no education, but they're open to it.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thank you for your sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Are you good? Yeah. Okay. Well, we intended to have the session only 1 hour, but now it's 1:20, and it's so thank you for everyone who stay on this with us until this time. So thank you again for our guest speaker. And before we wrap this up, would you like to take turn to say goodbye and say what conservation means to you in one sentence? I will start first with Phil.
I don't want to say goodbye. I want to say hello. Let's keep in contact. The details through and on the PowerPoint I sent, make this a hello. That's the beginning of a conversation, and maybe some collaboration. That would be a lot of fun. Conservation, in one sentence, it's an understanding not just that we are seriously connected to everything else in the universe, but let's just limit it to Earth. Not that we are just connected to everything on Earth and everyone, but we act on that understanding. And that's everyone in the future as well. And so conservation is about action, not just knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. I pass it to Amy.
For me, conservation is the human connection on what the animals and the trees and the world did first. And conservation, like Phil was saying, is our responsibility to carry on and keeping this entire world healthy for us to continue living on the world, to where conservation is the continuous action, like Phil said, to keep the world going, to keep the environments going, that was started with the indigenous tribes and the animals and their earth itself.
Thank you, Amy. Jamie, it's you.
Yeah, well, what conservation is just protecting and restoring the world, the natural world around us. But what it actually means to me, which I think was how you phrased the question, which I quite liked, was it just how important it is, just the intrinsic value of nature around us, but also the services we get, the ecosystem services, fresh air, clean water, fruit production. It is super important. We know how important education is, how important healthcare is, but I think we underestimate how important biodiversity or nature or the ecosystems are. And I think one day that might come back to bite us. So it's really important that we put conservation measures in place.
Thank you. Thank you so much. On behalf of Conservation Vietnam, thank you all for your participation today. I want to say thank again to our supporter from ENV Ho Chi Minh. Thank you for you guys to have set it up and support us in the media communication as well. So let's wrap it up from here to our audience. Keep communication for conservation. Check your email resources and let's stay connected. We'll be sending you follow-up with information from today's conversation and the presentation that we all have shared today. Okay, and see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, Mai.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Yeah.